Rants. Like and subscribe. And I see we getting on the candy today. Alright. This rant is about red and yellow M&M. Okay? Now, we grow up, we watch these two characters, right? And I mean, we loved them. They're on the commercials. We grew up with them, right? But you guys don't know the story behind these two. Like, they did a lot of gangster stuff in the candy world and in Candyland, let's just say. In Candyland. They did a lot of gangster stuff, okay? And we're going to talk about everything, right? We're going to get on everything. We're going to get into the beef with Skittles, of course. I know, that's a sensitive subject. We're going to talk about the whole incident with Santa Claus and, the near fatal heart attack that Santa suffered when he witnessed the red and yellow M&Ms. I'm sure you guys remember that, right? We'll talk about that. But before we do that, right, we have to start from the beginning, okay? And I mean, what you want me to say? When you think of Mars Candy Company, right? It's the house that M&M's built, and I believe their headquarters is located in Chicago, okay? And that's where they were created. They went through the process. It's their candy. What do you want me to say? They're candy. But understand this. The mascots that's selected for the M&Ms, they're special. They're hand-picked by Mr. Mars himself. Now, understand this, and I make these videos for someone who may possibly listen to this in 2067, right? Who knows, right? So understand this. Back in the day, right, the quality of chocolate was way better. And when the sun hit it, it actually melted, okay? And it would be messy on kids, okay? But M&M promoted a candy-coated shell that melted in your mouth and not in your hand, okay? But if you're young, like when Rance was young and you held a bunch of those plain M&Ms in your hand, oh, they would melt in your hand. You'll have a rainbow in your hand. Yeah, rainbow. But that's neither here nor there, right? Now, around 1967, right, we first see two M&M mascots, right? And that's not red and yellow. No. That's actually plain and peanut. See, know your candy history. Understand that. That's plain and peanut, right? And their commercials consisted of plain letting the world know that M&M's melt in your mouth and not in your hand. And then peanut will jump in a pool full of chocolate and then they take a candy-coated shower in front of you. No curtains, nothing in front of you. And then they form into the M&Ms, and this is before color TV, right? But then we go into the 70s and we meet the legendary M&M's man. Now, a lot of people may not be familiar with the M&M's man, but he had a catchy song and the kids loved him. He would sing, who dunks M&M's in chocolate, can you guess? He covers them in candy so there is no chocolate mess. The M&M's man. Yeah, the M&M's man. And you see the M&M's man, he showed love to all of the colors. In that commercial, he was showing love to orange and green. We don't really see a lot of orange and green due to red and yellow, but we're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on that, right? But yeah, I mean, the M&M man. They even had a live rendition of him. The kids loved him, right? But also in the 70s, we're introduced to red and yellow. Yes. And their commercials, the first ones, right, they consisted of them saving children. Let's say a child may have a chocolatey hand, or they made a mess and they have a lot of chocolate around their mouth from eating a candy bar, of course, right? Red and yellow will pop up. And they'll do some magic and clean them up and let them know, you can eat M&Ms. They don't make a mess. They melt in your mouth, not in your hand, right? Even one commercial, they even saved a grown man. Like, yeah, it took place back in the Western times. And they even had tools drawn on them. But red and yellow, they wasn't scared because they knew the candy is not going to melt in your hand. It's going to melt in your mouth, right? Now, understand this, right? Back in the day, okay, red and yellow, they were known to expose themselves in every commercial. Okay, this is the 70s. Okay, understand that, right? They're exposing themselves. They stopped doing this later on, but they were known to do this. Okay, it didn't matter if you were a kid, grown man, woman. They exposed themselves. They're candy. Okay, now the M&M man, he became very popular in the 70s. Okay, very popular. He even formed the M&M's gang. And they would always switch the song up. Every commercial. It's on YouTube. It's like 4 different commercials. They would switch the melody up. The M&M's man. Every time. The words would be switched up. Okay? And they're becoming powerful. So, red and yellow goes to Mr. Mars. And they play candy politics. You guys don't know red and yellow like Rants know red and yellow. They went to Mr. Mars and they was like, yeah, this guy, M&M man, he has the kids behind him. I tell you what, because we built Mars, we've been in talks, and this is red doing all the talking, but yellow is a force though too, right? Like, yeah, we've been in talks with Hershey, right? And we're thinking about taking a meeting, and I'm sure we can convince Snickers too, right? Then you'll be stuck with funky ass Milky Way. Don't nobody like those. Don't y'all got 3 Musketeers? Are you serious? Yeah, we're thinking about taking that meeting with Hershey. And Mr. Mars is like, hold on. What can we do, for you guys not to walk? And red and yellow was like, very simple. Very simple. We need you to take out Mr. M&M, mafia style. And we also need you to spread propaganda because he's a stranger. Okay? Mr. M&M is a stranger. Kids should not be taking candy from strangers. He's walking in their neighborhoods, passing the candy out. No, we can get on your TV screens and we can do this for a better price. But, we're willing to negotiate. If not, Hershey is willing to fly us out, to Pennsylvania. Take a meeting, And Mr. Mars, he's like, okay, well, I tell you what. We can't lose you guys. You guys built the Mars company. Milky Way ain't selling anything. And you guys want me to say the obvious, right? But it's a reason why you don't know who the M&M man is, though. It's a reason. Unless you of a certain age, it's a reason why you never even heard of dude, right? or the gang. Yeah. Eliminated mafia style. Right? And that leads us to the 80s, right? And my goodness. All right. Because I can't tell the story of Red and Yellow without talking about the incident of the 1983 Candy Awards, right? And I know they're going to be upset. I get it. I know these videos always make these characters mad at rants, but I have to tell the story. And you guys have never heard this story before, okay? Now, understand this. Before we even start this story, be who you want to be. Love who you want to love, like the great Ray J once said, right? I'm not going to choose a side, right? If you are a Skittles person, okay, by all means, that's your side. Live with it, stick with it, right? If you're M&M's person, that's your side. Live with it, stick with it. If you're a kid and you like both, by all means, okay? This video isn't even for you. But hey, you know, be who you want to be, love who you want to love, right? Now, understand this, right? We get to the 83 Candy Awards, right? M&M's have been winning the Best Bite-Sized Candy Award for years. No competition, right? No competition. Okay? So this year in 83, they decided to have them presented. In Red and Yellow, you guys remember, right? They're presenting the award, you know, that they assume they're going to win again. And Red is out there like, you know, they had us present the award this year because we always win. And Yellow's like, yeah, you're right, Red. You know? And they're reading the cards and they're like, you know, the winner of the 83 Best Bite-Sized Candy Award goes to, and you know, they're confident and cocky, right? And they're reading the cards, they're like, Skittles? And of course the music plays and everybody cheers, right? Because it's an underdog, right? Now, see, the candy politics is so crazy, right? Because you got to understand what happened during that time. It was supposed to be a passing of the torch, right? And Red didn't mind. He understood. He's like, all right, I get it. Mars is promoting the candy. You know, he want to sit and push them. I don't mind that. But the disrespect came when Skittles chose the red Skittle to select the award. See, and Red and Yellow, they knew. They was like, Mr. Mars set that up. They're using you as pawns. You know, Mr. Mars set that up. Y'all trying to replace Red and Yellow? You serious? So this naturally, right? And this is the part that we all remember, right? When Red and Yellow, they get back on stage after the award is presented, and you know, the red Skittle walks off stage, right? They get back on stage and Red is drunk off the simple syrup. Now, understand, right? Simple syrup for humans is used as a mixture in drinks, right? But these candy characters, they drink this stuff and they act crazy off this stuff, right? So Red is gone off the simple syrup, right? And he's like, you know, he gets back on stage, him and Yellow, they come back, they like, we know where we at. We know where we at. Mars, we see you got your little fruity candy, your little fruity candy out here. But it's all good though. We built this house. You need us. You know? Y'all don't got no love for M&M's? You crazy? You know? And the incident, of course, in the backstage. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Red and Yellow, I apologize. Because we do have a picture of the incident. So, that led to Red and Yellow going on a SERP rampage, right? And they jumped the red Skittle backstage. They beat the candy shell off the red Skittle. And he didn't even see it coming. Red attacked him with a trophy. So it was first degree assault. Yellow didn't take the charge. Red was like, he'll take all the charges. Red gets arrested for this. He goes to candy prison for a little bit for this situation. Yes. And you know what's funny, right? It's so funny, right? Because if you watch Canadian M&M commercials, it's so funny, right? They'll promote orange and green. And you'll be like, well, why is there no red M&M? Right? And naturally, you're thinking, oh, because the dye is banned in Canada. Yeah. Red was definitely banned from Canada, all right? Red has a felony charge. Yeah, he's banned from Canada, okay? So you guys got to read in between the lines. You thinking the dye is banned from Canada. No, red, the M&M is banned from Canada. So Canada naturally went with orange and green. Because they was popular. You know, they had the commercials in the 70s. They was like, we can rock with them. You know? But yeah, Red, he did his time. I mean, he locked down with the nasty candies, the Mary Janes, the Peeps, you know, them nasty penny candies from back in the day. You know, he locked down with them. And understand, a lot of y'all don't know. But see, they don't allow the chocolate on fruity violence. See, they don't mind chocolate on chocolate violence. It was Milk Duds against M&Ms. That's fine. They've been beefing for years. You know, they cool with that. Sour Patch Kids and Skittles, that's common now, right? They've been beefing for years now. You know, they cool with that. But they not about to let a Twix go at it with a fruity candy. Come on now. That's not right. That's not life. It's organized. This is the candy world, right? Oh. And another L that they took in the 80s. I forgot. The popular movie E.T. Yes, Spielberg actually contacted Red and Yellow and Mr. Mars personally, you know, to see if he could have the candy featured in the film, of course. And what you guys don't know is Red and Yellow, they're very prejudiced towards aliens, you know. So they saw it, they was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? We're not dealing with no aliens. No. You know, and that put Reese's Pieces on the map. You know, and they say they regret that, you know, but they still don't like aliens, but for the money, they would have done it, you know, especially to spite Reese's Pieces, because this is Red and Yellow, right? But that put Reese's Pieces on the map, and it led to their beef, of course. And then now you got Red and Yellow, they going to Mr. Mars like, yeah, we can come out with the peanut butter M&M. Like, we're not worried about them. We're not worried about E.T. So yeah, they always tried to flex their power in the candy industry, right? Now we can move on to the 90s, right? When he gets out and they reinvent themselves, okay? And we see Red again, celebrating M&M's 50th birthday in 1990. He makes an appearance, right? And throughout the 90s, well, at least the early 90s, we see them with different celebrities, Daisy Fuentes being the main one, right? But in 1995, you guys may have forgot this, but M&M's, they held a staged election, right? Where they had us believe, if we call the 1-800 fun color number, we could vote on the next M&M color. And we had the choices were between pink, purple, and blue, right? But Mr. Mars and Red and Yellow, they already knew what they were going to do, right? Because blue ended up winning. And they already had the commercials lined up. You guys remember the commercial with the great B.B. King? Yeah, rest in peace. The legendary, right? And you got the new blue M&Ms, they're getting, the praise, right? And red and yellow see it. They like, oh, for real? And they get some paint. They paint themselves and they basically duct tape the real blue M&Ms, and they do the commercial. They try to do the commercial with BB King, but they're noticed, and they actually do another commercial where they're holding their breath trying to be blue M&Ms, crazy. And don't even let me even get on the late 90s when the crispy M&Ms came out. And then that's when we see orange. See, let me let you know what red and yellow would do with orange, right? They don't have a problem with orange, but they're always going to use orange for the new flavor, right? And orange was real popular in the late 90s during the crispy ads. See, orange had a little fling with Holly Berry. Yeah. You don't even remember, she read his palm, that one commercial, and then they were in the pool on the other commercial. Yeah, and like I said, when they came out with the pretzel M&Ms, who did they call on? Orange knows he's going to get a check. Caramel, perfect example. Caramel, right? They're interviewing. Who do they have there? Red, yellow, and they have orange there, right? And Caramel is there, and naturally orange and red don't like him, but yellow loves him. Caramel gets the job. Of course, it's an orange M&M. Of course, right? Or do you guys remember green? Since we're talking about all the colors, green was a baddie. Green was a baddie. Yeah, it's that one commercial where the guy walks in on green while she's changing and she's naked. That will go for millions on OnlyFans in these days. This was just a commercial. She covered herself like, I'm naked, excuse me. Or you guys remember the infamous commercial when Red falls in love and he's singing the great Meatloaf song that I will do anything for love. I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. And that meaning you eating him or throwing him in an oven. Or what about the other baddie? The brown M&M. Now, it's so funny because, see, the tan M&M doesn't get a lot of love, right? For obvious reasons, right? And what I left out was during that 95 election, that rigged election, that was actually to replace the tan M&M, right? See, it's obvious why red and yellow don't like the tan M&M. It's a brown M&M, the Negro M&M, right? I mean, it's quite obvious, right? But they eventually changed brown identity to a baddie. And we all accepted brown as the baddie, right? But you guys remember the legendary commercial, right? I believe it was a Super Bowl commercial. And Miss Brown, the baddie, M&M is at a party. And she's like, why would anybody think I'm naked? Then Red pops in. And he's like, oh, this is a Diddy party. Because Red, he's at the Diddy parties and whatnot. Red's like, oh, I didn't know this was a Diddy party. Strips his clothes down, starts dancing. I'm sexy and I know it. I'm sexy and I know it. Y'all don't remember that? Yeah, Red will always show you he's freaky. Like I said, they used to expose themselves back in the day. And now I guess this leads us to the most iconic commercial that red and yellow has ever been featured in, right? Because I mean, of course, there was the commercials with the M&M minis when they were, trying to get them back in the tube. We've always hated those commercials, right? But the most iconic commercial is the Christmas commercial with Santa, right? And that was not supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. See, Santa was doing his normal Christmas duties as St. Nicholas. He's dropping gifts off to the kids, okay? And it just so happens, because Red likes to, drink his simple syrup. So they started late. So the M&Ms came by and, and they came by the house and the times overlapped and they end up seeing each other. This was never supposed to happen. You know, but Santa sees Red. Red sees Santa, and he's like, "Oh my God, he does exist." Santa's like, "Oh my God, they do exist," and they both pass out. But see, but what you don't know is, Red just passed out. Santa had a near fatal heart attack. Yeah, and luckily, I believe in 2017 or 2018, they did a sequel to this commercial. And they had to, right? Because Santa almost sued Red and Yellow because his identity was exposed. You know, Santa almost caught a breaking and entering charge, but they realized that was St. Nicholas. They had to really run the ID and everything. And the police was like, we can't charge St. Nicholas. You know, he's giving gifts out to the kids. But Red and Yellow, what are you doing here? You know, thank God Yellow saves Christmas. You know, and he went out and delivered the gifts. He had to, though. See, like I said, that commercial was years after. He had to. They worked that out. Because St. Nicholas, they had a lawsuit for years. His money's long and Red and Yellow money long too, for years. But you guys didn't know that. It's a lot of things you guys don't know. Red and Yellow, right? And if we really live in this simulation world, right, where Sinbad was in the Genie movie, right? What was it? Shazam, right? Well, in that same world, was there not an M&M movie? Or is Rants off the devil's lettuce again? Like, what's going on? I could have swore there was an M&M movie in the late 90s. Was there not? Is Rants tripping? I could have swore we had one. I don't know. But look. Nonetheless, though, Red and Yellow, they still out here. They're monopolizing the candy world. They still run stuff. They let Sour Patch get their shine and whatnot. But they still run stuff in Mars. If you mess with them, they will still get you dealt with mafia style. You know, like they had to do with the M&M man. You know? But like and subscribe. Randumb Rants.